Before I came to Mohe, the only thing that I knew about this place was that it was the most northern town in all of China bordering Russia. And they say that I might be able to see the northern lights from here. So I'm hoping that I'll see them. But in the meantime, I'm just looking forward to spending some time in a place that only gets a couple of hours of nighttime over the summer months. Welcome to Travelogue. I'm Michelle Lean. Located on the border of the Dangxing-Anling, or Greater Xing'an Mountains region, Mohe is a small county in Heilongjiang province that has long been regarded as a place that's way off the beaten track. So while many people may have dreamt of visiting the most northerly town in China, few dared to brave the 20-hour train ride from Harbin. But that all changed in 2008 when Mohe Airport opened. Nowadays, it's pretty accessible since there are direct flights from most major cities in China to Harbin, from where you can take an hour and 40 minutes flying hop to Mohe. Flights to Mohe are only once or twice a day, depending on the season, so make sure you plan your trip well. The name Mohe, meaning black ink in Chinese, derives from the black debris-filled Heilongjiang River that runs through the area. While most people visit this northern town in the hope of getting a glimpse of the northern lights and experiencing the extreme winter and snowfall, few know that Mohe has spectacular scenery all year round. In whichever season you come, it will take your breath away. It's the coldest place in China, with temperatures dropping below -50 in winter. This extreme climate earned Mohe the nickname China's North Pole Village. I didn't expect a place dubbed North Pole Village to have many hotels, let alone 4-star establishments. So I was happy to discover there are many hotels and hostels spread across town. We stayed at the Jinma Hotel, the most luxurious hotel in town, and I can safely tell you that it comes up to par with most 4-star hotels in China's major cities. Now, if you don't fancy a Chinese breakfast, there is a continental menu available throughout the day, and for those of you who are internet dependent like I am, you'll be happy to know there's a connection in all the rooms. You may be way up north, but don't worry, you'll still be connected to the outside world. One of the first things you'll notice about Mohe town is that the main street is filled with new European-style buildings meant to emphasize Mohe's proximity to Russia. That they had to be built in the first place was due to the Great Fire of 1987 that wiped out virtually the entire county. I head over to a museum in town dedicated to the fire to find out a little more about the devastation which was wrought on the entire Greater Xing'an Mountains area, not just Mohe. It's shocking to hear that it took 28 days to fight the fire after it started on the 6th of May 1987, a date that is ingrained in the minds of the locals. The Great Fire swept across an area of over 1 million hectares, wiping out everything in its path, forests, towns, and homes, and claiming 211 lives. Can you imagine all this pain and wreckage just because of one cigarette? The fact that this museum stands here today is living proof that people can overcome anything. You know, tourists and locals both can come here and remember this day, but they know that outside, everything is being rebuilt. Be warned, some of the images in the museum are quite graphic and leave little to the imagination. Still, it portrays the devastating incident well. In Mohe, the only places left standing were a school, a toilet, a graveyard, and a portion of the forest. This area here in the middle of town is full of pine trees, and strangely enough, it's one of the 4 places that didn't burn down during the Great Fire. If you go around, most of these trees are pretty much older than I am. This is one of the only one that I've found that's around my age. It's not by accident that a grove of pine trees lies in the heart of town. After the fire, the town was rebuilt around this surviving patch of green as a reminder of Mohe's past. Most of the trees here are several hundred years old, and while they lack the presence one would expect of trees that age, don't let their size fool you. The climate here only allows these pine trees to grow a little every year.
那我从小就知道有漠河，有北极点，还有北极光。
我们生长从小就是在南方，就想来感受一下我们国家最北的这个生活。
Walking through town, I chance upon a local market, something I never ever say no to. Oh, this is what it's all about. Local markets are so great. Wherever you go, you need to go to a local market. It's where you can find things that, are special to the area. For example, let me see, where are they? I just saw it just now. Oh, pine nuts. You can get a lot of them here. Oops. For those of you who are into organic produce, you'll be happy to know that most of the nuts here are grown locally or picked straight from the surrounding forest. I don't think I've seen that many different types of mushrooms anywhere. I was starting to wonder why I didn't recognize most of the mushrooms, but I'm told they're actually wild mushrooms from the nearby forest and are known for their medicinal properties. 这个最好的还是这个最好的？这个最好的。She says these are way better than these. So these are like the best mushrooms anywhere. I've been told there's a traditional Russian bread house in town, and who am I to say no to a few carbs? Ni hao.
放下吃喝自己。
哦，你好，你好，你好。这个你们家做的吗？
自己做的，自己发面、揉面，自己做的。
你怎么样学这个的？
这个学从小跟着妈妈学会的。
你妈是俄罗斯人吗？
俄罗斯人。
哦，有什么不一样的？我想买一点点。
这样的就是外加了一点，就这个果酱。就是咱们这嘎达都市就是牙疙瘩，就是苏联名就是牙疙瘩，
什么果？
牙疙瘩就是蓝莓。我让你尝一尝我们怎么个吃法，我教给你啊。
OK， 好。
这个放上果酱。这是蓝莓，这就是都市。
The freshest jam in town。特别好，真的特别好，有一点酸，有点甜的。
对，又酸又甜，还香。
对。It's a little sour, a little sweet from all the sugar that she's added, but it just smells like fresh fruit. So good. 特别好。Even during the warmer months, the temperature here varies drastically between day and night. So you may be interested in a large freestanding thermometer in town that lets you know just how cold you are. The average annual temperature here is around -4 degrees Celsius, and with temperatures dropping to -40 and 50 degrees during the winter, it's really no wonder Mohe can claim to be the coldest place in China. I may have missed out on the 20-hour train ride from Harbin to Mohe, but I certainly wasn't going to pass on a short train ride within Mohe County. I arrive at the station just on time and board the train with some of the locals. I won't tell you my exact destination just yet, but I'm here more for the experience of riding on the tracks of the most northerly town in China. The railway system plays a key role in these less accessible northern regions. It transports the coal and wood from the towns up north down to the central regions of China. In Heilongjiang province, there are 60 railway lines, including a section of the Eurasian Land Bridge, which is a railway connecting China and eastern Russia with seaports in Western Europe. You see these? They're so old school. Like, there are booths and, like, tables and stuff. And you want to check out these fans. Look up. Look up. Wow. I love those. This is really vintage. It's like a vintage train. So I heard that you can go from Mohe town to Gulian, which is the most northern stop in all of China. This trip is turning out to be one where my compass is constantly pointing north. I'm headed to the northernmost railway station in China. Seeing as the trains aren't particularly packed, I can be a little bit more inquisitive about my fellow passengers. 你好，可以坐下吗？好，谢谢。你去Gulian干嘛？
我去工作。我是巡道员，每天坐这个6425车列车吧，到前方站Gulian车站下车，完了下车了往家步行回家18公里。
He tells me that he walks the route from Gulian to Mohe town, checking the track for problems every day, no matter what the weather's like or how cold it gets. I'm really moved by his evident devotion and good nature when he speaks of his job. I don't think many people would be able to maintain such optimism when it's minus 40 degrees out. So he's just said that it's an 18-kilometer walk back to Mohe, and it'll take about 8 hours. So I'll see you in 8 hours. Turns out, Gulian is a coal mining town, and while it's not much of a tourist destination, I think it's worth the short journey just for the ride to the most northerly railway stop in China. For those of you without time constraints, consider taking the train. It's the best way to see the magnificent forests of northern China, which cover a large part of Mohe County. From Gulian, I traveled down to a logging area. Yes, I know it's a very unusual place to visit, but after the Great Fire, a lot of emphasis was placed on environmental protection and sustaining the regenerated forest areas. While I'm not the greatest campaigner for environmental causes, I still think that it's important that we all work to reduce our carbon footprint, and I figured it'd be interesting to check out one of the main industries in Mohe. Most of the locals here used to work in the logging industry or have jobs related to products derived from the forest, but in recent times, many have moved to tourism-related jobs. I was told that they have greatly reduced lumber production in order to avoid overexploitation of the forest, and in 2009 invested more than 487 million RMB in environmental protection. This is amazing. Do you see how big these logs are? I can't even imagine how they carry these things down from the mountain. They're just rows and rows and rows of them. It's like huge mountains of logs. If you look closer, you can even see how old these logs are. Look here. While it's a great pity that these trees need to be felled, I was happy to learn that many more trees are replanted for every one that is taken from the forest. You know, it's really amazing, like, how old these trees are. 200, 300 years old, and you get a log this big. It kind of makes you think about the paper you use every day, doesn't it? Keep really quiet. But feel it. It's such a surreal feeling just going through this. Right? You're surrounded by giant logs on both sides, and you're walking through this corridor of logs. Just listen to your footsteps. Nice.你好。
你好。
我是不是啊？你好，你叫什么？
我叫王守忠。
王守忠是吧？哦，你好，我坐一下干嘛？
行。
好。你在这干活几年了？
干活得20来年了吧。
哇，是每 天一年365天吗？
不对，
啊，
都是冬天。
冬天。
冬天11月份到8月份吧，这个季节。
这个细的。
哎，对。
100年多啊？
没有100年，这细的也得20-30年了，那粗的都得40-50年，100多年。
哦。如果你们锯树怎么样锯树的？
一个锯手，一个扛枝杆的。
嗯，然后呢？
这锯手锯放树吧，必须往一个方向走。
哦，一个方向走是吗？你们有喊的吗？
有喊的。
听一下。
狮山倒了。
狮山什么？
倒了。
狮山倒了，我教你英语的，你看。Timber。挺好的。挺好的。In the past, Mohe was known for its gold, and a lot of people from many different countries would come here just to pan for gold. And Mr. Chai here, Chai Shifu, is going to show me how, it's done and teach me about its history and, well, everything about gold. There are many local legends telling of how gold was first discovered here. The most popular concerns are Russian, who was trying to bury his dead horse. While digging the grave, he discovered gold. Another version involves a gold nugget found in the belly of a duck. Anyway, however gold was discovered in 1860, people flocked here from all over the world in the hope of finding their fortune. At the Li Jinyong Ancestral Temple, you'll be able to see the old tools used for panning gold back then, and you'll also find out a little bit about Li Jinyong himself, a government official sent to Heilongjiang in 1887 to establish the Mohe gold mine. Having sent some infiltrating Russians packing, Li turned the mine into the most successful gold mine in China at the time. Since then, a total of 300 tons of gold has been found in the area. In his younger days, Mr. Chai was the chairman of the Mohe gold mine, and he takes me to the place where the gold panners would rest after spending many hours in the shallow waters of the Heilongjiang River. You can still make out the remains of the makeshift homes here.
俄罗斯当时就苏联没解体之前，苏联人在这块采金最多。到下边看一看，这里头的人当时住的那个条件啊。这个就是搁石头砌的，转圈砌的墙，砌墙之后上面扒桦树皮，说人们白天下矿体去采金儿，上那边，晚上回来就到这住，连做饭带吃饭。大概这一个屋也得住10几个人，就这一个小就这一个小的院子。北山上大概10米8米就有一个，北山上也不少。这块前面这个还有，这前面这都是。
如果冷的时候，他们怎么样采金子？
天都最冷的时候，他才能采金儿；天都不冷的时候还不能采金儿。
为什么？
这种金子呢，必须冬天采。什么原因？夏天上水，挖下一个坑，在那坑里往出掏沙子，从这沙子往出里拿金儿。所以夏天上水就不好办。
冬天时候是零下40多度，他们受不了。
冬天。都不穿庙就可以干，尽管天那么冷呢，一干起活了，天那也就不冷了。
Being here, it's not that difficult to imagine the hardships the gold panners in Mohe faced. It brings to mind the 49ers of the Californian gold rush, both being places where dreams were made, but more often dashed. Panning for gold on a cold, rainy, or winter's day probably wasn't the most ideal circumstance the men of the past would have wanted to find themselves in. But knowing that my survival doesn't depend on finding gold, I'm more than happy to brave the weather. In the past, Yanjigo was the gold production base, but nowadays, tourists can come here to experience their own gold rush. And if you have a little patience and ample luck, you might just find your own fortune here.
Mm. 这个非常清楚吧？看到的，你看到吧？对啊，能看到啊。这有几个，这还有几个。哇。 也行，也挺好。
Do you see how small this is? How many of these would you need to make a ring? Tiny. When most people come to Mohe, what they want is to go to the Northern Polar Village. It's about a 1.5-hour drive from Mohe town, but it's there that you'll be able to see the Northern Lights. Well, hopefully see the Northern Lights. You can either go by a bus or you can hire a car and drive up there, you know, through great landscape, forest, and beautiful mountains. So it's a really nice drive. Over the course of the 1.5-hour drive, you'll be tempted to get out of the car, breathe in some fresh air, and take a closer look at the natural surroundings. But if you're a smoker, don't even think of lighting up. It caused a great fire once, and you wouldn't want to be the cause of another. This is so beautiful. Look, it's bark from the white birch tree, and a lot of the locals here use it to make these beautiful pictures. Okay, so here's something that I wasn't even going to attempt in the forest, but some of the local guys told me that the birch bark catches fire incredibly quickly, so it's often used to light a fire in the stoves at home. These birch bark pictures are a pretty good souvenir to take home, so it's definitely something worth considering. Yes. Okay, I recognize the characters Bei and Chun, so I'm guessing that I'm at the right place and we're at Beijichun, the North Pole Village. I'm finally here. Beijichun Ko. Okay, that's good to know that I've arrived at the right place. But even if I hadn't, well, I'm being surrounded by timber houses and wide open blue skies. So, you know, it's not such a bad thing even if I did get it wrong. Hey, 能带上我去吗？你走前面吗？你走前面吗？Yeah. This is what you call alternative transport. 那我们走这边是吗？走这边是吗？ The people in the stores are really nice. I just asked him if he knew where I wanted to go, and he was just like, yeah, I know the way to that place. I'll take you. And he's transporting us at the moment, so I'm like, all right, you know, let's just jump on the track light thing and go. The most important thing to do when you get here is to find the spot that marks the most northerly point in Mohe, and therefore in China. You'll be happy to know that from the village, it's an easy walk across the grassland to this point. You can't journey this far and not prove that you've made it, especially if you opted for the 20-hour train journey from Harbin. And you'll even find a map indicating how far Mohe is from major cities in China. Sure, you can walk from Beijing to Mohe. It's only 1,568 kilometers if you're up to the task. This point here, though, where I'm standing, this is the most northern tip of China. You're at the north of the north. I'd found and stood at the most northerly point in China, but there's no way I'm going to leave without exploring the village. Otherwise, it'd be like going to the North Pole and not taking a look around. Now, I hear that it's a tiny village, but there's no place too big or too small for Travelogue to explore. So join me in the next episode as I continue to journey through Mohe in the hope of seeing the Northern Lights. Before I came to Mohe, the only thing that I knew about this place was that it was the most northern town in all of China bordering Russia. And they say that I might be able to see the northern lights from here, so I'm hoping that I will see them. But in the meantime, I'm just looking forward to spending some time in a place that only gets a couple of hours opened. Nowadays, it's pretty accessible since there are direct flights from most major cities in China to Harbin, from where you can take an hour and 40 minutes flying hop to Mohe. Flights to Mohe are only once or twice a day, depending on the season, so make sure you plan your trip well. The name Mohe, meaning black ink in Chinese, derives from the black debris-filled Heilongjiang River that runs through the area. Well, most people visit this northern town in the hope of getting a glimpse of the northern lights and experiencing the extreme hours of nighttime over the summer months. Welcome to Travelogue. I'm Michelle. Located on the border of the Dangxing-Anling, or Greater Xing'an Mountains region, Mohe is a small county in Heilongjiang province that has long been regarded as a place that's way off the beaten track. So while many people may have dreamt of visiting the most northerly town in China, few dared to brave the 20-hour train ride from Harbin. But that all changed in 2008 when Mohe Airport winter and snowfall. Few know that Mohe has spectacular scenery all year round. In whichever season you come, it will take your breath away. It's the coldest place in China, with temperatures dropping below -50 in winter. This extreme climate earned Mohe the nickname China's North Pole Village. I didn't expect a place dubbed North Pole Village to have many hotels, let alone 4-star establishments. So I was happy to discover there are many hotels in Hong Kong.